Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful start to your new year. And Happy New Year's, by the way. And I hope everyone has been having a great week out there so far. We have a ton to talk about in tonight's video. As you can tell, there's about 1,000 tabs pulled up on your screen. So you know we're going to be talking for a while. And obviously, the big topic is a lot of cold air, Arctic air, spilling down to the lower 48 into the central and eastern U.S. And with it, it's going to bring increased winter storm chances. So the first thing we will speak on is what the experts are saying from the Climate Prediction Center, the National Weather Service. The next thing we will speak on is model guidance that does support this really cold air. We'll really speak on the Euro ensemble and really show you, how cold it's going to be compared to your average temperature for this time of the year. And then we'll start diving deep into these winter storm chances. And the first winter storm we will break down is the one that is pretty much a lock. We're just trying to watch out for tweaks one way or the other. But this thing looks like a lock for a lot of areas. And what I mean by a lock is it's likely going to happen. And I think it's going to stretch from about the Central Plains through the Midwest, all the way to the Ohio Valley to the Mid-Atlantic. So we'll really zoom into each individual area, compare model guidance, and we'll spend a lot of time on that. And then chances are a lot of people are tuning in for the snow chances for the South. I'm going to have an entire segment on that. We're going to compare model guidance. We're going to talk about how much snow some of this ensemble guidance is showing. We'll break down the South Central U.S. first and then the Southeast, and then we'll wrap the video up by nerding out with you guys a little bit and really describing and explaining why the pattern supports so much cold air into the lower 48 and winter storm chances so far south. And I want to say this right off the dot, even though this is 2 minutes in, so it's not right off the dot. Utilize those timestamps, guys. They're there to help you folks out. There's a solid chance you'll find the information that you're looking for. You're just going to have to seek it out through the timestamps. So utilize them. My videos are very long. They get very, very deep into the details. So definitely utilize those timestamps. With that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. So this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. This is a 6 to 10 day outlook. It dropped today. And this runs from, always have to look, the 7th through the 11th of January now. So we're moving up in time. If you live in this purple area, this is where you have an 80% chance of temperatures being below normal. This shade of blue, 70% chance. This shade of blue, 60%. This is 50. This is 40. This is a 33% chance. Okay, so it's looking like it's going to be cold. I mean, honestly, the first 1/3 of January looks like a lock to be cold for most of the central and eastern U.S. Most, I say. Okay, not everybody, but most. Now, you match that with the precipitation outlook in the same time frame, right? So kind of eyeball this, I guess put an image in your head of what you're seeing here, and then let's switch it to the precipitation outlook. It's leaning dry in this shade right here. So a 33% chance of precipitation being below normal. This is a 40% chance, so more of a solid percent chance of precipitation being below normal. But you go down here, right, and Texas, even southern sections of Texas, even a very small section of southeast Louisiana, Florida, southern Georgia. This shade of green is a 33% chance of precipitation being above normal. So what they're saying here is they're leaning towards a wetter scenario in this time period. Now in this grayed out area, to me, that's basically saying there's a chance of average precipitation. You could go one way, you could go the other, but it's probably going to be around average precipitation for this time period. But it's looking dry in this area. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be dry, guys. And just because you see green, that doesn't mean rain. Remember, you compare that with this, and some areas that are seeing precipitation, I mean, is going to be snow. It's going to be winter weather. Next time frame we go to is the 8 to 14 day outlook, and this runs us from, let's see, the 9th through the 15th of January. This goes, guys, clear through mid-month at this point. And the cold looks to be centered over the mid-Atlantic and areas of the southeast. So once again, an 80% chance of temperatures being below normal in this time period. This is 70, this is 60, this is 50, 40, 33% chance. And once again, you match this with the precipitation outlook in the same time frame. Okay, it does look dry. It still looks dry, but once again, there's that grayed out area. There's a chance of technically it says a 36% chance of precipitation being near normal. So it's pretty much saying there's a chance of average precipitation, and they're leaning wetter towards the Gulf coastline and areas off the eastern seaboard of like Florida and Georgia. Leaning drier up here. But once again, you match that with the chance of below average temperatures for these average areas. That could be snow for the deep south. Okay, so we'll stop it right there. No use in showing the 3 to 4 week outlook because it's starting to become a little bit more outdated. They'll do another update for the 3 to 4 week outlook here in about 2 days. So let's look at some graphics. This is some key messages, and they dropped this a few hours ago, actually. It says key messages for January 4 to 6 winter storm. So the National Weather Service, there's the logo, calling now for a winter storm in this area. I know this is kind of blurry, but you see this pink area, greatest potential for significant icing. So this is going to have an ice storm element. And if you want to stop your video, you can and just read this. You know, it says significant icing potential in the mid-south, widespread heavy snow possible, and just winter storm potential increasing this weekend for the areas we're about to speak on. And this is just, like I said, information from the National Weather Service. Now, let's go to the next graphic here. This dropped today about a couple hours ago, and it had everybody in the South getting very excited, including me. This is experimental, though, and some people take it out of, sometimes people take this a little bit, they make it more than what it really is. But it does say, and what you're looking at here, I should probably explain that, this is a slight risk of heavy snow. Okay, so in this purple dashed area right here from Texas all the way to the mid-Atlantic, this includes, I mean, you see where it includes. In this purple dashed area, that is a slight risk of heavy snow from the 9th through the 10th of January. This is including areas of the deep south all the way to my neck of the woods here in central South Carolina, the Carolinas, all the way back to Texas. And then, of course, you got it up here too and up here. So it's an experimental thing, but it's pretty wild that they're already honking the horn at a risk for heavy snow in this area. Valid January 9th through the 15th. Now, it does have separate dates here. So pretty wild stuff, right? Now, let's move to the temperatures. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but it's definitely important to mention. Very cold air coming in. I will say right off the dot, it does look like this might not be like the historic cold that once upon a time this looked like it could have been. But this is still extremely cold temperatures on the way. I'm talking about highs in the 30s for like areas of the South and stuff like that. Still very, very cold. But we keep going. Let's start this off the morning of the 4th of January. Already a secondary cold front has moved in. Very cold temperatures. The blues, and here's the key down here. Okay, keys down here. The blues is like, 3 to 7, maybe 9 degrees below average. And I'm going to say this multiple times throughout this very long video this is going to be. But the timestamps are up here and it's up here. So JAN stands for January 4, January 4th. So this is around the morning of January 4th. A lot of cold air coming down to the central to eastern U.S. And we keep going here. If we can get it going, let's click this. We'll get this in motion. A little bit of a moderation period, so it actually might warm across the southern plains in the deep south, and this actually could cause a little bit of a severe weather threat for Sunday across areas of the south central U.S., which we'll dive into another video at some other time. But as we continue to move forward here, look at the southeast. It warms up, and then really the true Arctic drops down. So you see the greens here, that's 10, 15 degrees below average. So say in Birmingham, if your average temperature for early January standards, I don't know what it is, but I bet you it's in like the 50s. If it's 55 degrees, if all of a sudden you get temperatures that are 15 degrees below average, then maybe your high temperature is only around 40. So that's very cold for the South any time of the year. But, it's January, and that's another thing. These are compared to your average temperatures. Your average temperatures in January are already at their coldest. So just remember that. If we were seeing this and it was like March, it would be a little bit of a different story. But this is January, the coldest time of the year. So we start to get into midway of next week. That is brutally cold air across the Midwest. And I think it's picking up on snowpack that the winter storm is going to drop that we're about to talk about here in a second. But those colors right here, that whitish and then getting into that purplish kind of shade of color, that's 25 degrees below average. That is cold. And this cold just locks in across the eastern U.S. I mean, anywhere from 5 to as low as like 25 degrees below average as possible, depending on your location across the eastern U.S. And, we get into next weekend and the cold hangs around. It's still cold all the way 300 hours out. We're getting into the 13th, the 14th of January, the 15th, all the way to the morning of the 16th. In the eastern U.S., at mid-month, is still frigid. That is still very, very cold. It's moderating a little bit, but I mean, you're still seeing these widespread greens, which is anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees below average. That is cold in January, the heart of winter. Mid-January is the heart of winter. So pretty wild stuff. So I did want to spend a little bit of time on that. The cold is still coming. It just seems like that it's getting delayed, but it's not. It's not getting delayed. We've just been trying to honk the horn at this pattern for like 10 days since before Christmas, if you remember. We've been seeing it, and the models have done well sniffing it out. Let's talk about the winter storm coming up this weekend into early next week. This needs a lot of attention, and I know I got a lot of my viewers in from the south, and they want to hear about the winter storm risk in the south. That's why I have timestamps up. Just jump ahead to that and utilize those. But this is for the winter storm coming up this weekend. Let's speak on this. What we're going to do is compare the Euro with the GFS with each individual frame. So this is the latest Euro from earlier this afternoon, the latest info we got. This is Saturday morning. We have a stripe of snow breaking out across the Dakotas, and then immediately you see the pink. The pink you see on your map is going to be freezing rain. And once again, timestamps are up here, so we're around January 4th or 5th, right? JAN 5, JAN 4. So this is around Thursday evening, okay? We keep going here. We're starting to get into this coming Sunday. I mean, this is right on us. This is inside 100 hours. We got a low pressure scooting across areas of southern Kansas. The pink is freezing rain. We have a nasty mixture of freezing rain, sleet, and snow in Kansas City, if this is right. This is a high impact winter storm also back in Kansas. Looks like Oklahoma's going to miss this one. We're going to get some light to moderate snow even up in Nebraska. If this precipitation shield inches any more to the north, it could become a bigger event for, say, Lincoln and Omaha. But as we continue to move forward here, it looks like the Euro is far enough north where this is mainly rain for southern Missouri. Okay, so now the 18Z Euro is running now. Maybe this shifts south, but we don't need to pay attention to each individual shift until we really get a little bit closer. So let's just stick with the data that we have. But the middle of Missouri, say Sunday afternoon, is getting an ice storm. Northern Missouri is getting a snowstorm. St. Louis is like right on the fringe. And we keep going all the way into, say, Sunday evening. Some of this freezing rain switches back into snow. We start off as ice, say, maybe in western Kentucky. I think western Tennessee is mainly rain, start off as ice, and then it switches to all rain, especially for western and southwestern Kentucky. And just look at this winter storm ongoing across Missouri still, and then we start to get into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So that is the Euro model for the central U.S. Now, what about the GFS model for the central U.S.? Here it comes. Winter storm dropping down to a little bit further south. So looks like you have a little bit more freezing rain Saturday night into southern sections of Kansas. That sleet is in the orange. It looks like it's more so sleet and snow in like Kansas City, for example. This is definitely all snow up in Omaha and Lincoln. The frozen precipitation line is definitely more south on the GFS, so you're getting a little bit of freezing rain down to northern Arkansas as we're getting into Sunday morning, and we keep this going. And this is just the precipitation in the system is just more suppressed, so therefore the cold air is further south, therefore winter weather is further south. So this is getting freezing rain into northern Tennessee. This is turning into a significant ice event for, say, now southwestern and southern of Kentucky. You keep this going, and this is all snow now, switching to all snow in like St. Louis, central Illinois, all snow up in Indianapolis. But the snowfall shield just doesn't really make it all the way up to Chicago. Chicago's had some really bad luck if you're a winter weather fan. I mean, they have just missed to the south, they've missed to the north. I don't know what's up with Chicago lately. And if you live in Chicago and you're tuning in from that area, trust me, I notice it. I notice it. I don't know what's causing it, but I think it's just bad luck. It's just bad luck. But let's switch it to the eastern U.S. So we're going to start this off Sunday midday, January the 5th. Here it comes. Winter storm moving into northern Kentucky. You got snow starting to move into southwestern Ohio. Snow starting to move into central Indiana, Indianapolis. This is all rain on the Euro for most of Tennessee on the Euro. Now, you do got some freezing rain, say, in the Cumberland Plateau, those higher elevated regions, and then it switches to all rain for Tennessee, all rain for southern Kentucky, but then we got a whopper of a snowstorm starting to move across Ohio, central Indiana, central Illinois. It starts off as snow for most of West Virginia, and then it quickly switches to freezing rain on this model. And then we keep this going, folks. And let's stop it here. Look how long this system is. This is the middle of the night, this coming Sunday night. You got freezing rain ongoing in the pink in northern Kentucky. Timeline is up here. Okay, this is all snow. This is a thumping of heavy snow into the D.C. Baltimore area, northern VA, and Maryland. It all starts off as all snow in, say, the Delmarva. And we keep this going. We go all the way into Monday morning. We got some back end snow starting to fall back here in Kentucky as cold air moves in. So it kind of ends with some moderate snow in southern Indiana, if this is right. And it hangs to all frozen precipitation in central to northern VA just about for the entirety of the event. Now, for you wondering in like New York City and Boston, it looks like the heaviest winter weather misses you to the south. This could trend north. I'm not saying that it couldn't. I'm not. Now, North Carolina, on the Euro, it doesn't give you much winter weather. The GFS says something totally different. But look at this light snow, that lingers around the Delmarva as we're getting into next Monday evening. And then it's over. What about the GFS for this storm? Okay. It's colder. GFS, here it comes. We're getting into Sunday evening. It's just an all-out winter storm for almost the entire state of Kentucky. Kentucky would get hit very hard if the GFS is correct. The far northern extent of Kentucky is all snow, like up here in maybe Lexington points north up into, it's starting to snow into southern Ohio. Indianapolis is starting to get snow. This is Sunday evening. And then look at this winter storm moving into Virginia, starting off as a wintry mix in the northern counties of North Carolina. Look at all the icing. I think this could be a significant icing event for western North Carolina. Look at the freezing rain right where Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky meet. And it hangs on to freezing rain for just about the entirety of the event for southern Virginia when it switches to rain on the Euro. This is all snow in D.C. How far does this low pressure get? The further north it trends, the more you'll have mixing issues in the D.C. Baltimore area. But this could be a nice snowfall event for the D.C. area. It really could. But it hangs on the freezing rain for a while in northern North Carolina, and then it finally switches to rain. And, it has you guys ending as a burst of snow in the Delmarva, Delaware. This could be a nice winter weather event. And I say nice, guys. I know that offends some people. I get it, because not everybody likes winter weather. But this, if you're a winter weather fan in the Mid-Atlantic and, you feel like you've missed out a lot over the last several winters, this could be a decent winter storm for you guys. And then you got the northwest flow stuff that follows, and this could add up in the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains. So, all right, now that we got done discussing that, let's break down snowfall accumulation. So we're going to work west to east. So we'll look at the blend of all models for the northern plains and the upper Midwest. This is what the blend of all models is saying for the Dakotas with this system. Just in general, a few to several inches of snow across southern North Dakota, and just about the entire state of South Dakota has a shot at some accumulating snow. You get down to Nebraska, and I really do think Omaha down to Lincoln could get a few inches of snow, not as much when you get further west in Nebraska. And, I will kind of jump down here and look at, say, Kansas. This is what Kansas is saying for the blend of all models right here. They're going for, say, in Kansas City around 4 inches or so. You get back here a little bit further west, maybe just a few inches. And, let's go back to the... let's see, the north central U.S., where was it right here? Now, what is, say, the Euro Ensemble saying? It's not much different. Just has the axis of the heaviest snow in the same areas. So not a whole lot different from what I just showed you, honestly. But let's go on and break it down here to the Midwest. Bring it down here to the Midwest and break it down too. That'd be cool. So this is Missouri, southern Iowa, and this is showing pretty much all of Indiana and Illinois. This is the blend of all models. So this is blending all the model guidance together. And this is definitely used by the National Weather Service, and it's a great thing to look at because, well, it blends everything together. But sometimes it can be off too. But the whole entire northern half of Missouri on this certainly gets solid accumulating snow. In fact, it wants to go over for a half a foot of snow in, like, say, St. Louis. It really hits central and south central Illinois pretty hard with snow. And it hits Indiana, central Indiana, pretty hard with heavy snow. Indianapolis going for 7 to 8 inches on the blend of all models. Now, what about the icing? We could get a little bit of ice back here in Kansas. Don't want to ignore you guys. A few 100ths of an inch of ice is possible. But this is when the icing situation becomes a legit concern, folks. The blend of all models going for about a tenth, a little bit higher of an inch of ice in, say, St. Louis. But basically, if you live in southern sections of Missouri, especially southeastern sections of Missouri, I mean, you could get 1 to 2 tenths of an inch of ice. Once you go over a quarter, you really start to run into issues. So the southern sections of the heaviest snow is definitely getting and mixing with some ice. And I think you'll get some sleet accumulations with this too. I mean, look at the ice showing up for western Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois. That is definitely an issue here. Now, you switch it and you look, let's go back to snow with this, and let's look at the Euro Ensemble for this area. And I knew it was going to do that. So I should have known better and had this a little bit more ready. But this is what it's saying for Missouri and Indiana and Illinois right here. And we'll zoom into this area here in a second, a little bit better on Ohio here in a minute. But for the Euro Ensemble, you just basically have this swath of 6 to 8 inches of snow stretching from basically Kansas, northeast Kansas, including, in this case, Kansas City, goes through northern Missouri, goes through central and south central Illinois. Don't let me mix up Illinois and Indiana because I will in a heartbeat. I don't mean to. It's just saying so much stuff at one time. Same thing with Indiana. A little bit less in the northern areas. And then look at this solid snowfall signal in Ohio. We'll show you more of Ohio here in a second. And then this is the GFS Ensemble. I don't know if it's RAN. So it actually is kind of locked into the same areas. Not as much to the west, but those same areas. I mean, you look at this and then you flip it back. And then you look at the Euro Ensemble. I mean, it's not a whole lot different. It's pretty much locked in. So it's doing pretty well, I would say. So if you look at the blend of all models, a little bit closer to, say, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and then Kentucky, here it is. I think this is one of the most reliable things you can look at right here, honestly. And honestly, I really shouldn't even, I should just keep it at the blend of all models because I think it does the best job at this. But look at central Ohio, half a foot of snow off the blend of all models. The rest of the southern half of Ohio, 6 to 8 inches. It's not a forecast, but it's just what the blend of models are saying. You get up to, Cleveland, a little bit less, but I do want to say that this is blending in the snow that will fall in the Clipper in the next couple of days also. There's going to be a Clipper of snow that moves to this area that could bring some light snowfall accumulations. In fact, you can see that pretty well. Here's a little bit of snow from the Clipper, and then you can see the winter storm that moves in after that. Okay, so just want to add that. Here's ice accumulations in this area. It's really to the south, but more ice than what this is showing could end up happening, guys. But there's your ice. Like I said, once you get over a tenth to 2 tenths of an inch of ice, you start to get into issues. Once you get over a quarter inch of ice, that's when you start to get into ice storm criteria type ice. So if you're looking at the mid-Atlantic here, this is the blend of all models. The blend of all models is wanting to go for 5 to 6 inches of snow in the Baltimore, D.C. area. And then look at the central to northern areas of Virginia. Pretty wild stuff, folks. I mean, goodness. Anywhere from 3 to as much as 6 inches of snow going for over a foot in West Virginia up into the Allegheny Mountains. Central to southern PA. I mean, you see it here outside the higher elevated regions, anywhere from 3 to 4 inches of snow. The Delmarva, you got a solid around 5-inch snowfall mean, and you got a few inch snowfall mean even up into New York City, a little bit into Long Island also. Southern New Jersey looks better than northern New Jersey in this. And then there's a sharp cutoff around the North Carolina-Virginia line. But there is even a little bit of a snowfall average into the northern counties of North Carolina. And then in this area, there is an icing concern too. And I actually will look more at this for the icing. You see Southwest Virginia, you see Southern West Virginia, going for that darker shade of pink. That's over over a tenth of an inch of ice in these areas, and even a little bit of a signal for some ice into the Piedmont. So I will show you, see the Eastern U.S., and we will look at the Euro ensemble as far as snow. And let's extend this all the way through. And you can tell that the heaviest signal for snow is west of the Alps, but there is still a solid several inch snowfall average in the mid-Atlantic. And you look at the GFS ensemble, what it shows, it doesn't change much. It honestly looks like they're beginning to really lock in now to this. It really does. So that's good stuff. They're locking into a scenario here. And it doesn't change much. You compare that, and let's look at it again. That's the GFS. That's not what we want to look at. And we look at that, and yeah, it doesn't look a whole lot different. It really doesn't. So that's the good news with that. So that's an update on the winter storm. That's pretty much a lot. We're just trying to figure out the tweaks here and there. Now let's move to the portion of the video a lot of people probably want to tune into, and that is a snow risk for the South. Let's talk about the South Central U.S. For you folks tuning in from the Carolinas, Georgia, surrounding states, heck, even Florida. There's a southeast section of this. This is the South Central U.S. So this is for Texas, Oklahoma, and like Louisiana, Arkansas, etc. That's what I'm trying to say. So latest GFS model, and I'll be honest, guys, I hadn't even seen the entirety of this run yet. I jumped on this video and started before I even looked at the entire GFS run. What I can tell you is the GFS run from earlier today was a legendary run, and I'll show you it here in a second. GFS run starting off Monday morning, a little bit of a quiet period emerges, and then some snow breaks out Tuesday afternoon, January the 7th. Timestamp up here, JAN 7. Light to moderate snow breaking out across southeastern Colorado, the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, even southwestern Kansas, New Mexico. Then there's a connection with some phasing of some energy here, and we start to get snow falling. And models are really starting to lock in for winter weather for Texas. I mean, they really are. I mean, they have been showing it for the last few days, and they've locked into this. But here comes some Gulf moisture bubbling down here. Plenty of cold air that's done sagged all the way down to the South Central U.S. We got snow breaking out close to Austin, Texas, close to San Antonio. And then it lets up a little bit. You're thinking, okay, well, that's all we got. And then more energy gets going. So it's like you get multiple rounds. This is getting into Thursday morning, January the 9th. Here comes some more moisture tapping into that cold, shallow Arctic air. And we get a moderate winter weather event across central sections of Texas. I mean, this could be a major winter storm, and it brings snow all the way into central, all the way up to the northeast areas of Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, and then look at the snow starting to break out across northern Louisiana, and look at the snow all the way down. I mean, that's a big old Gulf low down here in the Gulf. And look at the snow falling in like Jackson, Mississippi, getting to Thursday and to Friday of next week, not tomorrow, next week, January the 10th. And yeah, I mean, that is definitely a snow event and a winter weather event for Texas off the GFS. And then, I'm not going to look at what comes to follow. I really just want to focus on these two storms, the one we just talked about and then the ones we're talking about now, because I'm really starting to like next week's time frame. So that's the GFS for this. What about the Euro? Is the Euro showing anything in the same time frame? Same thing Monday, getting into Tuesday, getting into Thursday. Where is it? Is it going to pop up here? Getting into Friday, there's the Gulf moisture. And this is like the first Euro run that does not hit Texas that I've seen in a while. The one last night gave Texas winter weather, but this one missed. But I could see it coming back. You can already see a lot of energy diving down. Look at all the light snow. So you got snow diving all the way down to Mississippi, into areas of Arkansas as we're getting into the weekend. But the Euro is a miss for the South Central U.S. The latest one. What about the Canadian? Yeah, we're going through all of them, baby. The Canadian model. What does it show? We're starting to get into Tuesday. We're starting to get into Wednesday morning. The Canadians got freezing rain almost all the way down to Brownsville, Texas. The sleet is in orange, blue is snow, freezing rain pink. It's got light winter weather breaking out across most of the state of Texas. And look at this. This isn't very heavy precipitation on this particular run, at least yet at this time frame. But this is Wednesday evening, January the 8th. And look at this winter weather breaking out deep down in Texas. This ain't just the panhandle of Texas. This is all the way down to, San Antonio. And this continues, and then it turns into a raging winter storm across southeast Texas. And it turns into a winter storm across the northern half of Louisiana. You got freezing rain starting to fall Thursday across southern Mississippi. And then you get another round. Not as much cold air, but there's more winter weather further to the north. And then this breaks out, turns into a big deal. This gets snow all the way up into Oklahoma, gets it all the way into Arkansas. Freezing rain getting all the way into southern Arkansas. And then all that energy heads on off to the southeast. This is a big winter weather event. So you get another round getting into Friday, basically an all-out winter storm for the northern half of Mississippi. And this gets even into Alabama eventually. And then it heads on out. That's a lot. And then I'll show you the Euro AI model. And remember, if you've been tuning in for a while, the Euro AI model is kind of a new model on the block. And it's not going to show precipitation types. It's just going to show green for moisture. That moisture could be snow, sleet, freezing rain, or just rain. And just remember, you see this little blue line? That is basically the 0 degree line aloft in the 850 millibars. So about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air. That's where it's 32 degrees, 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So same thing, guys, we're getting into, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning of next week. And this is all snow falling across areas of western Texas, New Mexico. And then boom, there it is. There's the moisture. I would say down here, this is probably falling as a cold rain. But once you get up into this portion, you start working with a lot of shallow cold air. This green is probably falling in the form of snow in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, all the way up to Oklahoma City, all the way back to Abilene. And this is a big winter storm, say, for Arkansas, definitely up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, southeast Oklahoma. This is probably like, if I look at this, for example, let's look at that. All right, this is like the middle of the night next Thursday night, right? And let's look at temperatures. That's either a really cold rain or, depending on the temperatures aloft, there's no point in really focusing that much into this. This is a very heavy, wet snow. Or it could be sleet or freezing rain, depending on the temperature. But that is definitely winter weather in the south. And then this heads off. The important thing to just focus in on with this is that there is a storm system in the same time frame that almost all the other model guides there is. Even though you didn't really see it on the Euro, there's still a lot of energy there. So what is the model showing as far as snowfall and ice and stuff? This is the blend of all models, which I think is an excellent thing to use at this range. All the snow you see up here is what we just talked about with the first storm system. You're about to see a lot of grays and stuff come up down here. So this is blending all that model guidance together. And sure, it doesn't look that impressive, but for let's see what the latest, I think there's a new one that came out. Yeah, there is. So this is the latest one. And it shows snow down here in central Texas. A little bit of snow into Louisiana and Mississippi. Not as high up here in Arkansas. This tells me this is a suppressed storm signal. And then you look at ice. There is definitely a signal for ice. It's not as loud, but a few 100ths of an inch of ice. There's a little bit of a signal down here. Not that big of a deal, but that is not a forecast. This is blending a ton of model guidance together. So it could be blending model guidance that shows nothing. It could be blending model guidance. Well, it is. It's blending model guidance that shows a major winter storm. Now, what about the Euro ensemble for this area? What is it showing? Same thing. This is for the winter storm that happens that we just talked about late this week and early next week. And watch how the snowfall mean average begins to drop down into the south as you approach that time frame I'm just talking to you about. As we get into mid to late next week, you can see there is a snowfall mean down here that starts to get over a half an inch to even an inch in certain areas. And then it gets a little bit fuzzier once you start to get into Louisiana and Mississippi, but there's certainly a signal here. And then we look at the latest GFS ensemble, and let's see if the 18Z is in. And no, it's still running. But the 12Z, here it is. You can see how there is a little bit of a signal down in Texas. It's not that loud, but there is a signal here, and this could continue to grow. And the reason, if you're looking at this and saying, man, you just showed me a bunch of winter storms and it's only showing this, well, that tells me that there's a lot of members that are still not showing anything. So, of course, you got a member, say if you got 30 members, you got 15 members that show absolutely nothing. You got like 10 members that show a light and a moderate event, and then you got 5 members that show a pretty major event. Those 15 members that showed absolutely nothing is really going to skew down the average, right? So I hope that makes sense. Now, let's talk about my peeps. And I hadn't even looked at the latest GFS, so this is about to be new to me. And I can almost guarantee you it's not about to be the same as what the 12Z showed, but we're about to find out. I might get disappointed as I'm doing this, but yeah, I'm human too. I like looking at these fancy fantasy runs and thinking and getting very excited off one run. I'm not going to say I don't do that. I'm human. I love the weather. But we start off Monday. That system departs that we just broke down. And then we get into a dry period next week. We get into Tuesday. Remember, the time frame is up here. WED 8 January. January 8th. It's over here too. Quiet period. Here comes the moisture we just broke down for the south central U.S. Okay, the first little wave misses. Here comes the second wave. We're getting to Thursday evening. There's the snow breaking out across central sections of Mississippi. Is it about to do it for the southeast? Here we go. Here it is. Yep. So Friday morning, it looks like the system's faster on this run. So Friday morning, it starts to break out snow across Montgomery all the way up to, I almost said Birmingham. Binghamton is in New York. But we got snow breaking out as far south as Macon. It's a light snow. The lighter shade of blue is definitely lighter snow. And it definitely looks like it's a little bit less amped. But this is snow falling across South Carolina, and we keep this going, and it looks like the system is a little bit more suppressed on this model run. So low pressure is way down here on this particular model run, but it still breaks out snow across the southeast, across the Carolinas. We got the blue showing up, and yeah, sure, it's not some huge run, but look, it starts to snow heavily in Myrtle Beach, Wilmington. And I know you're looking at that, you're like, man, that was nothing. But I want you to look at it. I would say this. It's good that this system has actually backed off on the run I'm about to show you, because you want these systems to be suppressed until we get into the medium range, and then you want them to tick north right at the last second, and boom, you think you're going to be cold and dry, and all of a sudden you get a winter storm. It happens more often than you think. So yes, the legendary run that you've probably already seen plastered all over social media is this. And that is a major winter storm across the deep south. And my neck of the woods, I live here. See that little weird squiggly thing? That's Lake Murray. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. This brings a major winter storm into Atlanta, Columbia, to Charlotte, to Raleigh, the entire state of South Carolina. And this was a legendary run. It drops 20 inches of snow at my house. But you got to remember, you get a lot of back and forth. So this is Friday afternoon, January the 10th, right? So this is the current run. You're like, dude, what happened? And you're going to get a lot of people that see stuff like that and say it's over. Our snow chances are done. We're not going to get any snow. That's it. It never happens. You can't get so emotional over model swings. If you look at this is what the 06Z model run said. So this was the 06Z. It was a nice hit, right? And then it got even more amped up. This was the run in OOZ. It came in later. It was kind of a miss. It ended up looking really good, though, at the last second. So, and in the latest run, not as good, but the energy is sitting there. It's sitting there just waiting to cook for us. So don't get overly bummed out. There is a fail mode with this pattern, and that is that it's dry and cold. And it's the Euro. You look at the Euro, and here it comes. Here comes the energy. You can already tell there's not a whole lot going down for the deep south, but you can see there's northern stream energy and there's southern stream energy. And here it comes. It is so close. You have a ton of energy here. You got kind of spits of a wintry mix across the deep south. You have a bomb of moisture just chilling here. You got energy shooting down. and it just doesn't connect. In fact, it's so close that a wintry mix breaks out in Wilmington Saturday morning, not this Saturday morning, next Saturday morning. And this is a ton of moisture just waiting to be tapped into some cold air. Vice versa. It's just a miss. In fact, energy swings back through and you get some snow showers into South Carolina. Now, the Canadian model is a hit. Here it comes. Brings that winter weather. The first wave's a miss, and here comes the amped up second wave. Winter weather breaking out across Alabama, Mississippi, freezing rain in the pink, sleet is in the orange, snow is in the blue, and it is a hit. It's a little bit of a less amped storm. But it brings a winter weather event across Georgia, South Carolina, all the way into North Carolina, and this is as far out as it goes. So the Canadian's a hit, and the latest Euro AI model is a big hit. Here it comes. The Euro AI model, there's a way you can look at the snowfall from the Euro AI model. It's a site that I'm not familiar with, but I looked at it, and even though this shows in green, remember the Euro AI model only shows us just precipitation, so it's just going to show green. So this up here, that is snow. So what you're looking at here is a major snowstorm for Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, down to Columbia, up to Charlotte, heck, even down to Augusta. And especially as cold air kind of filters in behind this, this is a major winter storm for Georgia through the Carolinas and yes, even further west. So the Euro AI model was absolutely a hit. So what about the blend of all models for this? Let's look at the latest one. Same thing. All this up here is from the storm we just broke down. You're going to see the area fill in down here. And the latest blend of all models, I mean, it jackpots, South Carolina. But you can see that down here, you can see there's a signal for snow across the deep south, northern Louisiana through Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. And I know my people in Tennessee are like, man, what about us? You sit in a good spot, in my opinion. These systems like to trend north, and you're probably thinking, well, dang, we're going to miss to the north and then miss to the south. I would not hammer home on that. That is not necessarily true. We have a lot of time to watch this. There's a chance nobody gets hit. There's a chance that everybody gets hit. But look how the snowfall increases in South Carolina and Georgia, and I think this is because we have a lot of members showing a coastal low bombing out off the coast of the Carolinas. I mean, the blend of all models wants to have like a 2 to 3 inch snowfall average in South Carolina. So it makes me happy because I live here in central South Carolina. But what about the Euro Ensemble? What I like about the Euro Ensemble is that, the Euro doesn't really support anything big. The operational the operational run model doesn't. But here it comes. You can see how some lighter snowfall events begin to reflect. But you see how the average for snow really begins to spike here in South Carolina and Georgia. To me, that is because it's picking up on some phasing storm systems. And there's a lot of very small events with this too. But, I mean, that's almost an inch to over an inch, a little less than an inch snowfall average areas of Georgia and the Carolinas. Not as much snow for Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. But there's even a signal for Florida. All this could change. And then you look at the latest GFS ensemble, and we'll see if we have the entirety of the run. Not sure if we do. And same thing. I don't think we're going to have it, but let's see. And same thing. Here comes. Yeah, it looks like that. Let's see. See, that's the thing. Is the GFS ensemble has been the weakest signal for this deep south threat than all models. It has been very weak with this signal, and you can tell that this signal is coming in weak too. But it only goes out till about Friday evening, so we don't have the entirety of the run. If we finish this off with the OOZ from earlier the 12Z from earlier today, it's definitely not a heavy signal. So right now, the GFS ensemble, I would almost say, is a little bit of an outlier. Not a heavy snowfall signal down here, and you can tell there's a lot of members that, and I looked at them earlier today, there's a lot of members that just don't hit at all. It's just cold and dry. So the last thing we'll wrap this video, I honestly thought the video would go on a little bit longer, is I'll stop it right here. This is what the pattern could look like off the Euro Ensemble Friday afternoon, January the 10th. The blue is lower pressure. The warmer colors, the oranges, the reds, that's higher pressure, right? So the blues is a dip in the trough, a dip in the jet stream, and you can see the line kind of going like that, right? Okay, and then we got the spiking of the ridge. So what's going on here is ridge is spiking across the western U.S. One thing I'm noticing here is the ridge spikes kind of like this. We really need this ridge to spike up here. That's going to allow some of this energy to kind of come down here and dig off the eastern side of this ridge and the western side of this trough. Therefore, it can amplify and we can get a bigger storm system with all the cold air that's getting dislodged from this ridge spiking in the western U.S. and all this blocking up here that's dislodging this cold air south and setting the table for what could be a lot of cold air tapping into moisture. Instead, this ridge is kind of going like this, which is kind of weird. So your energy kind of comes down here, right? And it kind of dramatically dives in. And then it still does have an opportunity. Tries to tap into some southern stream. Some energy kind of coming down here. And then boom, you have an opportunity for something to really brew down here and maybe come up and deliver some winter weather for all these areas. And I know I haven't taught much on the folks in like New England, but there's also a chance that this system could go boom here and really just right up the coast and become a classic nor'easter storm. And then all of a sudden, everybody in this entire area, gets a winter storm out of something like that. That's a route too. There's also a route where this phases too late, like way over here. Therefore, you're going to have a low pressure that's going to like track way off the coast. And everybody, for the most part, maybe except Texas, just stays dry and cold. It's all about all these little pieces of energy in the atmosphere, folks. And we just have to watch all of them. If we go to the United States view and then we switch it to the VORT map here, you can see how the energy is diving south, right? We need to dive a little bit more to the west. But you can see how you're getting some southern stream energy back here. A lot of northern stream energy diving in right here. We need them to meet, and we need them to phase if you want a big winter storm come together and then bring a swath of heavy precipitation into that cold air right in this region. So we just have to see what happens. And, I think we're going to have opportunities, and we could have opportunities even deeper into the pattern too that really have not emerged. So just be patient with this. Look at everything. Don't overreact off certain model guidance. And we just got to continue to figure this one out. There's a lot to figure out, guys. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night. We'll do it again tomorrow morning.